The race for playoff continues as Rogue prepare for a must-win match against XL Esports. A tough road ahead for both these teams, although Rogue currently sitting on the cusp of a playoff position. XL sitting right at the bottom of the table.
Yes, it is definitely a lot harder for XL than it is for Rogue. Right now, I believe Rogue are tied with Vitality at 4 and 6. Both of them share that 6th place spot. So I don't think it's too bad, but it's one of those things where you're now directly competing with the likes of Vitality, right? And so you want to make sure that you don't drop any games, especially to the likes of XL. And while XL have showcased a lot of good things, losing to them is definitely going to hurt you in the overall standings. And remember that the weight of the second half, if you win, and then you're in a tiebreaker situation, the second half wins mean a lot more than the first half. So Rogue do not want to find themselves in a 1-1 against XL moving into the second half of the split. So let's jump into the draft.
Let's jump straight into it. Rogue on the blue side, XL on the red, and Xayah and, unsurprisingly, Inspired's Olaf being banned out here early on.
But I also just think Olaf is like really strong champion right now, my friend. He feels that he's able to do pretty much everything. He's like one of the strongest early game junglers. He has one of the fastest clear speeds. He's like crazy strong, but Inspired is especially good on him. What I don't want to see from Inspired this game is the likes of things like Sylas. I don't want to see him playing these like slow farming early game jungler, like passive junglers that scale later on. I think he needs to be on a high impact, early game focused, like dueling, skirmishing, fast clear kind of junglers. So we'll see if he decides to take that route, because that's when I think we see Inspired at his best.
Well, usually when his Olaf is banned, he goes towards Skarner or Rek'Sai as his two next picks. Skarner can skirmish a little bit, but mostly wants to farm up towards that level 6. With Azir removed from the pool, Sejuani and Nico taken away, Yuumi is the final ban here for XL.
Karma is immediately the one that raises in priority for me. She did receive, I believe, a couple more nerfs on 9.14. But even then, people consider her still very strong. Looks like they're going to go for the Sona bot lane, though. Will they go Sona Tahm Kench, is my question. Or will they go for the Sona Taric? Will they go back to the old matchup? Maybe they found something new.
I hope so.
Sona Jarvan, we saw over in the LCS a few weeks ago, coming out from Widid down the bot lane.
They did end up winning that game, but I don't think it was off the back of the Sona Jarvan lane. Now, Corki picked up for Mickey straight away with the Azir ban, makes a lot of sense, and Tahm Kench taken away by XL.
So, we're still seeing Tahm Kench in pro play. A lot of effort has gone into nerfing this champion, but pro players like, you know what? If I can gobble someone up and spin him back out, still a good champion. And as far as I am aware, Tahm Kench can still do that, so he's still going to be played in the meta. Corki going to be locked in as well. My question is, what does Rogue have prepared for the Corki? Because with the Azir taken off the board, you would have to imagine that they have something primed and ready to answer it. That is not one of the conventional mid lane matchups. I really hope that it's not Victor, and I do hope that we get to see something a little more exciting.
Ryze is still available for Rogue here as well if they want it. Strong pick. Can do a lot of work when you get towards those later games, can split push, but it looks like instead they're going to go towards their jungler. Inspired will get the Jarvan, who can make some of those early aggressive plays.
All right, doesn't have the fastest clear speed, but can make a lot of early game plays happen. One of the issues that Inspired may find is that he's not going to gain a lot of priority in the 2 versus 2 bot lane. So you would imagine that he's going to look to path up towards the top side. So we'll keep track of that once we actually get into the game. We now want to see what kind of laners the Rogue go for, because when you're drafting scaling towards the bot side with the Sona Taric, you need some power elsewhere. So the problem is they're on blue side, remember? So they can't guarantee counterpick. They can get a good matchup mid, but they cannot guarantee top. So they're going to have a safe blind. I wonder if it is Kled. We heard from Odoame say that he actually thinks Kled doesn't really have any bad matchups in the current meta. He can actually soak up a lot of pressure, and even though it looks much worse than it normally is in that game, a large part of that was because of some of the mistakes and some of the setups that we saw from him. So Kled could be something that we see rise in popularity here in Europe.
And the other option for Rogue is they take that Jarvan up towards the top lane and then pick a different jungler.
We've seen a lot of it from Prophet.
Yep, he has actually played it much more than Inspired, because Inspired hasn't played it yet this split. So Jarvan possibly going up towards top for Prophet. The Sylas probably going to Cadril in the jungle for XL. Cannon and Ezreal removed from the pool here by both our respective teams, and we'll see if Rogue want to keep narrowing down that AD carry pool, and if XL want to pick away some of those stronger top laners.
Now, do remember that Sylas did receive even more nerfs on this patch. His E now only gives him a magic shield. He doesn't get as much damage reduction on minions anymore, and like his ultimate got nerfed as well. Like he received a lot of nerfs, and there was speculation around would he still be valuable in the current meta. Pro Team saying yes, he can still be strong. Will it necessarily be in the jungle? We'll have to wait and see. You would expect that given that Corki's already locked in, that it won't be there. But we have seen some Corki tops floating around.
Also
so
seen some Corki AD carry, I believe, this morning, either in the LPL or the LCK. I can't remember which one I was watching. Aatrox taken away. You said you still think he's strong, even though he was kind of adjusted on this patch. Yeah, I think adjusted or changed is probably the best way of putting it. Rogue will remove another AD carry from the pool, and XL look towards their pick. I doubt it will be the Kog'Maw, but it's, you know, you're playing into a relatively safe lane. Maybe Kog'Maw Tahm Kench could be an option.
Well, I think Ashe would make more sense. There it is. I think that the Ashe Tahm Kench lane has always been very strong. The Tahm Kench provides a little bit more safety and survivability to the Ashe. I think it allows you to set up a lot of plays once you hit level 6 as well. The Ashe ultimate into the Tahm Kench ultimate is a great combination duo, so I quite like it a lot. We are seeing, wow, the Akali locked in for Larssen. Very exciting stuff. I believe that he did bring this out at EU Masters, and we got to see some cool stuff from them. Typically, we've been seeing a lot more control mages from this guy. He's not really known for his assassin play style, but he's going to be bringing it out today up against who you would imagine to be the Corki, and we'll see how well he does.
I just want to list out the champions he's played so far this split. Azir, Corki, Syndra, Cassio, Nico, and Sylas. None of those really fit into the same playstyle as that Akali. Aurelia was the final pick for Expect. He'll take that up towards the top lane and will be facing into the Gnar from Prophet.
So, in terms of the compositions, we can see the Rogue have pretty solid team fighting later on into the game. Sona Taric always offer a lot of value once they've got like 3 items done and they start grouping up with their team. When you have a Jarvan and a Gnar engage, you've got Mega Gnar, you've got obviously the Cataclysm from the Jarvan as well. There's a lot of AoE, there's a lot of crowd control, and then in all that chaos on the Akali, you can just be finding picks. You can look to play on a side lane as well, but I'm expecting Rogue to be looking much more to group up and fight later on into the game. Meanwhile, for XL, they have a little bit more pick potential, they have a little bit more side lane threat. Their team fighting is still fine, but one of the biggest issues that they have is that they don't actually have a lot of crowd control. They do have the Ashe Arrow, and they can potentially steal things like the Gnar ultimate and the Jarvan ultimate, but really, a lot of their focus is like single target. It's like poke damage, it's like chip damage, and so I feel like that in a similar vein to Game 1, XL will be looking to play much more towards their side lane. Try and get the Aurelia ahead in the early game. Utilize the Ashe and Tahm Kench duo to find picks, catch people off guard, and then use that to generate pressure to like force your enemy back onto areas of the map and ultimately avoid these big 5v5s unless you're at a healthy enough gold state that you can like win them regardless.
XL looking for pick Rogue, looking for later game team fights. We'll see if they can stick to the plan or if something will upset the apple cart as we get on into game. Well, I can promise you one thing, Vedius, we're definitely going to have a game of League of Legends. How it turns out, it's definitely up to these two teams.
Thank you, Medic. Thank you. I was confused at first. Hey, I thought, what game is this?
I've been playing a lot of Elder Scrolls recently, okay? I get confused. Where are my dailies? I need to craft a sip of stamina.
Only a few people are going to get that reference, and Ender's going to be one of them.
Which is the shame, I will admit.
Which is a shame. So.
I do want to just mention a couple of the Akali changes before we really jump on into the action. Twilight's Shroud no longer gives you obscurity, it now gives you invisibility, which means you're spotted out by True Sight. Probably won't see it happen too much this game, but also you can't extend the duration by jumping in and out of it. It's a set duration. It's a 1-point wonder for Larssen here. He'll be maxing Q and then going into E.
Which was interesting, because I too was listening to some Papa Smithy this morning. I only managed to catch the final game, but he was talking about how over in the LCK, they actually still love to max the W second. Personally, I just think that's wrong now. One of the reasons that you max the W second was for the energy regeneration and the reduced cooldown on it. But now it's a flat cooldown. It gives you 80 energy back at rank 1, so there's no value in maxing it anymore. And E only gives you more damage. So typically, we should be expecting an E max second. It still gives Akali a lot of damage. And if you're a good Akali player, you can definitely still make her work. So, Talked a little bit about Akali, but I wanted to talk about the jungle matchup. What we saw was that Inspired started on his red buff. He's immediately gone to blue. Remember that on a champion like Jarvan, on AoE camps, you're not the strongest, nor are you the fastest. So he's gone from buff to buff. He did get a bit of a pull, and this looks to be like a very fast clear speed. He's looking to what looks like a very early gank on the Jarvan. Has both buffs, maybe even going for mid?
Let's have a look. EQ's in. Sweepers are out. Larson steps forward. You're waiting for Inspired to have those cooldowns back up.
How far is Larson away from level 3? Let me have a very quick look. He's still half a level away from it, but he does have the Shroud.
And he does.
There's a lot of time being spent from Inspired right now, and in all that time, Kadril just doing a full clear top. Here we go.
Flash away. Oh, Inspired misses it. I've been there before, my man. I've had that happen. It's hard to hit, Vedius.
It is hard to hit.
I do want to quickly clarify. On Twilight Shroud, the Shroud duration does go up with level. It's the cooldown that doesn't go down. You still get a couple of extra seconds if you max it all the way to level 5.
Sure. But focusing on this, because the thing about this play was in the early levels, before level 6, Akali is going to struggle against range matchups. She always does, right? So one of the things that Inspired wanted to do here was to try and alleviate some of the pressure onto Larson, because he recognizes that Larson is going to be one of the biggest damage threats, right? Especially come the mid game, right? So by looking for an early play, they force the flash out of Mickey, and now they set up for another kill, especially once he hits level 6, and maybe even earlier than that. The downside of making this play is, number one, it costs Inspired his flash, but number two, when you're playing a slower scaling jungler like the Sylas, what you'll typically do is do a full clear on one side of your map, which is he's done on the red side, right? Then he gets to base, do an early buy, and then come back out on the map with all 3 levels, much healthier. And normally that puts you a little bit behind, but because of that early gank, Kadril is actually in a much better position now, and he's been able to secure the bot Scuttle Crab and even make his way down bot to set up for a potential gank.
Jessica takes a bit of damage. Mystique's jumping in, flashing forward. Warlock has to flash away. Kadril on the chase at land. The abscond onto Vander. Inspired joining the fray as well, as Mystique has already burned his flash. Has the heal still. EQ doesn't quite connect. And because of that, Rogue will back away.
So here we see what Kadril was able to use with the extra time that he had. Sets up a pretty effective gank towards bot, trying to put this Sona Taric behind as much as they can early. Sona now losing her flash means that XL could look for another repeat gank a little bit later on. So like the answer there from Kadril, playing towards the bot side of the map.
This is the counter pick for XL in draft, and Expect is showing us exactly how much damage that Irelia can do in the top lane. Forcing Prophet to base, and having the wave actually in a very difficult position here for Prophet as well.
Yeah, so we didn't really talk much about the top matchup, but basically Nah hates anything that's mobile and can do damage early. So he's able to, the Irelia is able to build stacks on the passive, and that just naturally gives you a lot of extra damage early on into the game. So in the situation the Prophet finds himself in, where the wave is pushing towards Expect, it's very easy for the Irelia to dance in, and if you ever land a stun, that's going to be a lot of your HP chunked. So this now forces Prophet to TP, which gives XL an opportunity to set up a TP play potentially on the bot side of the map. So we got to keep an eye on that. If Rogue ever try to make a gank happen, that TP is primed and ready from the side of Expect.
Talked about global pressure in Ready Check. Supporting can be very much, well, it can be a lot easier when you know you can have a man advantage at a moment's notice. Mystique's coming towards mid here on the Tahm Kench. Mickey takes a very bad trade there as Larson gets the damage down on that Akali. Kadril spotted out by this ward that Inspired walked in towards this red buff to place.
Love how Larson is utilizing his Shroud to just walk up and harass his opposition. Mystique's is here, so he'll be forced to back away, and Mystique's just showing up to help Mickey push out so that he can probably look for a base. But a large part of this ties in with the fact that Mickey was forced to burn his flash early. He's never quite sure whether a jungler is there or not, so he can't look to go for these more aggressive trades. And now Larson has hit level 6, so I'm keeping my eyes on Inspired. Where does he look to path? His Raptors have now just respawned, and they have full control over the top side of the map. This does mean that they could potentially set up a dive onto Expect, but he's got a way pushing towards him, so that's unlikely. And with Larson resetting and picking up a couple items, I'm just looking at this mid lane. I want to see Rogue make a play onto Mickey.
And Inspired's always the guy you have to look for on Rogue. So powerful throughout the split for this team. You can see when he's playing Olaf, they are winning most of the game. 75% win rate when Olaf is picked for Rogue. Others not so good, but we'll see if he can have a strong impact on this Jarvan. Facing into Kadril, who is always that magic spark for XL. They're looking down towards this bottom lane. Teleport coming in, that's the advantage we talked about. The Aurelia can join this fight. Inspired force back. Vander and Warlight underneath the tower trying to survive. The Dazzle comes out, ignites down. Warlight just tanking it up. Mystique's gonna go down. He will fall for second blood, but first blood goes to Excel. Now Rogue can try and turn this around. Mickey is in the bush waiting to see if he can join the fray. Larson stepping forward. Not gonna go any further for the moment as he is forced away by Mickey. Those missiles can do a lot of damage and the Akali has to retreat. Still has the flash. Mickey doesn't have his as Larson tries to turn it around. Perfect execution available for Larson if he wants to go in, but Caedrel's on the chase and instead he's going to use it to get away. Mickey able to force the Akali back.
So, I love the play that we're seeing from XL. The execution was a little bit off, but that's only because Mystiques did not have his flash available, but utilizing that teleport advantage to keep the Sona Taric down, allowing Jessica to try and secure more plates, get more gold into the Ashe, start rotating this bot lane around the map to prevent the Sona Taric from ever coming off the board. But the reality is, they weren't able to pull off the execution perfectly. Gnar was able to put a lot of farm back underneath the tower. He's now got a level advantage over Expect. And overall, the state of the map is not too bad for Rogue. So here we see Inspired, even though he's on the bot side of the map, doesn't have enough mana to really contest right now. His abilities are still on cooldown. But we can see that Mystique is tanking. It takes a little while for Caedrel and Expect to actually set up that dive. And they can't commit to the kill for Vander because now Larson is here. Now Inspired is ready and primed to try and support the rest of his team as well.
They're in time to try and help out. XL have about 1,000 gold lead at the moment. 500 of that is coming from the top lane, and because of it, they'll secure the Ocean Drake. The bottom lane pretty much even across the board, about 2,600 gold sitting, 4,600 on Warlight and Vander to about 3,500, 3,600 on the XL bot lane. So they are just that tiny, 4,600, just that tiny bit behind, but not too far in arrears at all. As we get towards the 9-minute mark, that strong gold lead for the side of XL could start to pay dividends, picking up those first parts of items, and the question becomes how effective they will be as they build up towards those first item spikes.
Notice now that Mickey, his flash is back up. Inspired was not able to make a successful play happen because largely that he had to answer the play that happened down towards the bot side of the map. And now that he's got the Hex Drinker, this 1v1 match will be a little bit easier for him. The risk of an all-in one-shot is significantly lower, so he's going to feel a little bit more comfortable. And now that he's got more points in his abilities, his wave clear is going to be stronger as well. His package has also been picked up. Will he look for a roam? They could continue to just keep attacking the bot lane. Warlight does have his flasher, but Vander does not. The Ashe Arrow is available as well. So there are a lot of options right now for XL.
But the thing you always have to ask yourself if you're XL right now is, can we burst Sona or Taric before that Cosmic Radiance comes down? Because if we're looking for a tower dive into a Taric who's now level 6, into a Sona who's now level 6, it becomes a burst battle. If you try and fight a sustain war, it's not going to work. Mickey looking up towards the top lane instead, forcing Prophet away. Back underneath his tower, feeding that gold onto Expect, getting the plates on towards the Aurelia.
I think this is also fine. They don't want to overcommit to bot. As rightly said, they are level 6 now. Why take the gamble? Expect already had a wave, slowly pushing up towards top. And so XL decided to utilize that. And now they're actually setting up a play onto the Rift Herald. Unlikely to contest to come out from Rogue, but you can see Larson pushed out mid on his way, and Inspired is right behind him.
Larson has the flash, has the perfect execution. Caedrel coming in as well as Inspired turns around the corner, spots out the enemy jungler on that Rift Herald. Ward goes in, but immediately cleared away with that control. Can't really see what is happening from a Rogue perspective.
Expect gets to move down first. Mystiques does have teleport as well, so this is the thing that Rogue have to be the most careful of. XL continue to have a TP advantage, so if Rogue overcommit, they're going to end up giving away a couple of members because they're just going to be at that numbers deficit. So good choice to just back away in this situation. It will allow XL to, again, get this numbers advantage. And like, this is one of the things where we always talk about how XL always look quite good in a lot of what they do, and then something happens, and it all kind of falls apart. And like what we're seeing in their early game, as we see a gank mid.
Oh, the flash away from Mickey will survive. Inspired once again, fail flashes the EQ.
Yep.
I thought for a second my eyes had deceived me, but Inspired not on point with the Jarvan in the same way that he usually is with Olaf.
it's funny because like we try really hard to emphasize that Inspired is like a really talented jungler, for given that he's such a young age, his first spin in the LEC, and then he tries to make a couple of these EQ flashes, and like this should not be a representation of what he's like.
You can be incredibly skilled at the game and fail that EQ, okay? I've seen it happen on international stages.
Have you bet it?
XL pushing up in the top lane, looking to get all of those plates down. It's only the 12-minute marker as well, and the teleport used by Mystique to get down towards the bottom lane. You saw that in your picture-in-picture. But a 3,000 gold lead once again for XL. We talk about their strong early game. Here they have come out of the gate swinging.
Expect is Gigafed. He is so strong.
Is that a technical term?
That is the professional technical term. Not only is his farm near flawless, but he has 1,700 gold over his lane opponent, right? Like, this Gnar has had little to no impact in this early game. And Irelia is already, like, she has the Tiamat, and she has the Phage, and she has completed boots. Like, I'm really scared of this Irelia right now. And like, XL now only just need to start moving this Irelia around the map, but it's still too early. We're only 12 minutes into the game. So to sit there and ask them to be like, oh, start rotating and like start forcing fights, like, it's too early. So instead, what they're going to be doing is they're just going to be setting up pressure. You'll notice that Expect has the TP coming up relatively soon. He's going to push the wave out, likely rotate down to mid so they can set up for the Infernal. They're spawning about 35 seconds. And remember, they can guarantee the push bot because, again, they're still playing against the Sona Taric. So XL utilizing their pressure very well right now. And they're even going to use it to get a bit of deep vision towards the enemy jungle. Ashe is base, so they have to be mindful of that.
Inspired able to dodge away from the abscond. Mystique's coming in with his jungler here to try and protect, but as you said, we're like, oh, teleport coming in here. Looks like Rogue want to take the fight. Mystique's will be the one to be caught out. It's a double TP, flash away from the TK, and he will live to fight another day. Infernal Dragon up in 6 seconds. Rogue unwilling to give this one up. Mickey's backing away, but he still has the teleport to join the fray if one does begin.
So I understand the idea, not sure that the execution was there. If they could have gotten that flank onto XL, they could have found that pick and they could have guaranteed themselves Dragon. The advantage of TPing in is now they have 5 members first, so they get to brute force their way into the Dragon Pit. But I think XL are willing to take this fight. This Irelia is very strong, level 10. Let's see how things play out.
Rogue calling XL out to a fight. Prophet building up the Mega. Gnar stolen away by Cadril. The ammo lands. Prophet already into Mega though, and now we'll see with the Infernal down to 2,000 HP. Prophet going forward. The Cosmic Radiance used, but he has to flash away. Gnar into the wall. 4-man stun. XL take the fight. They say, Rogue, you can call us out, but we're coming out swinging. Expect jumping forward to wall like that's another in his back pocket, and Inspired and Larson are limping away. Expect lands the stun. A flawless duet. A double for him. And now Larson is caught underneath the turret. That's not where you want to be, my friend. Expect doesn't give a damn about minions being there. He's on the chase. The ace comes out for XL.
Beautiful fight from XL. We were talking so much about it and how strong XL knew they were. But all of the benefit has to go to Cadril. This man stealing away the Gnar ultimate, landing onto 4 people, was exactly what XL needed to find that fight, find that ace, find that tower, and extend their goal lead to 7,000.
It's 15 minutes into the game and they are 7k ahead. Let's have a look at what Cadril saw in this fight.
So keep your eyes on, well, I mean, you have to keep your eyes because it's him. So notice how they're being patient. They wait for the Taric ultimate to come down and they disengage. Yes, they're losing the dragon, but they know they can go for the fight. Flashes in, lands the 4-man ultimate, only stuns 2 people, but that's all they need because that quick execution onto what is effectively the front line of Rogue is no longer there, and XL can look to get the chase. Beautiful stuff from the side of XL. They're now sitting at a very healthy early game gold lead, and you know, you look at this and you go, they're primed and ready to find themselves a big win here. This should be their game, but we have seen XL in this situation before.
7k ahead.
Against Fnatic, this is the same situation they found themselves in, and then they ended up losing. And it's because when they try to end the game, they often try to just group up and push. And you can't do that. You just, like, it's not effective, it's not efficient. So they need to split up the map. They need to be playing on their side lanes. They need to be utilizing the fact that Expect is so strong in order to siege onto these towers, and I like that ultimate from Mystique because they need to be moving towards these sides and playing towards the skirmishes.
And XL are playing around the vision control they've developed in this top side of the map as well. The control wards in here, both in the blue buff bush and this side bush. It's so easy for XL to pull Rogue around the map at their own will.
So I want to keep drawing people's attention to the teleports. Jesper and Expect, they have them both available. None for Rogue. This means that if Rogue are out of position, if one member overextends, very easy for XL to force a play. Meanwhile, Expect, even if they don't force a play, it's so strong that no one can 1v1 him. 16 minutes, Tiamat and Trinity Force completed on a level 11 Aurelia. Who on the Rogue comp can really match him outside of maybe Larson? But even then, like, I don't know if he's strong enough to just straight up 1v1 Expect right now.
Expect is 3,000 gold ahead of Prophet right now, 2,000 gold ahead of Larson. And those are the only people anywhere near him in terms of gold. It's so easy for XL just to continue to push forward, playing around the map as you wanted to. As you wanted them to, Vedius, and although they're sitting at 1-9, this is not the sort of performance you'd expect from a 1-9 team. This, maybe I'm being a little bit apprehensive as Crescendo comes in, but Vanguard's edge used as well, already misses the mark. Inspired jumping in with the Cataclysm Larson trying to get off the backline. He takes out Jester, and now Prophet goes in with the Mega Knight. The what? Oh, what a fight! Oh my goodness gracious me! Rogue has somehow turned it around. It's a Quadra, and Nikki has to try and fashion a wall. Just about gets away, but XL grouped up and Rogue were there to meet them.
Rogue find a beautiful fight onto XL, and Larson picks up a Quadra kill. How does this happen? Medic, we were literally just talking about, they found themselves in this situation against Fnatic. But I'm sure that they weren't just grouping mid. I'm sure that, no, they were just grouping mid. They ended up just getting collapsed upon with a beautiful ultimate from the likes of the Gnar, and like, admittedly, like, Larson was just clean up there. The whole play came from everyone else. Like, Woolite got one shot right at the start of the fight, but a great inspired ultimate into a great Prophet ultimate, then set up for Larson to be the damage dealer. This is what he needed to be in the mid game. He was the guy that would transition them into the late. And now, what was a 7k gold deficit is still a 5k gold deficit, but that is an Akali that literally went base and bought an item. Yep. She now has only Andrews
right now. That's a scary situation for XL, because it looked for the start of that they were doing everything right. You know, they catch out Woolite, they kill him, they're like, okay, cool, we can back off and then we can siege the tower. But Rogue was so willing to take the fight, even in a 4v5.
And remember that Rogue's comp ultimately is stronger in the straight up 5v5. If they just attack each other in a single lane, Rogue should win on paper, which is why we put so much emphasis on XL being able to play towards the side lanes. Tahm Kench, Ashe, and the comp from XL thrives when utilizing picks, when poking at your opposition, when not going for a full-on engage, instead just kind of playing the map, playing the 2 versus 2, just slowly chipping away your opposition. And so XL need to be careful, because if they keep getting baited into these fights, Rogue will find an avenue back into the game.
The thing is, XL are definitely still in the driver's seat of this game. You're still 6,000 gold or 5,000 gold ahead. You still have this incredibly strong Aurelia, but we have seen how willing Rogue are to take the fight, and so XL just need to be that little bit more cautious. As Expect goes down in the bottom lane, Prophet jumps away. Kadra was there to steal away the Gnar ultimate, but meanwhile the rest of XL are actually pushing mid. It's a 1-4 split as Kadra moves up to join his team. And XL, they knew that Larson was in the top lane. This is where it's so much easier for you to make these pushes when you know you don't have to be afraid of that Akali.
So good poke coming out from XL. Not enough wave clear from the Woolite Vander duo. They're face checking this part of the jungle, which does not belong to them. Oh. But the Akali flank comes through.
Here we go. Rogue looking for the fight. Larson behind them all. There's a blast cone up if XL want to take it, but they're looking for the chase. They go straight onto Larson. Oh, he dodges away from the arrow. Mickey's still going in. Rogue trying to chase, trying to catch up with their mid laner, seeing if they can help him out. Larson jumps back in the Cataclysm. Can they get there in time? The Crescendo comes out. Inspired's already down, but look at Larson in the fight. The Cosmic Radiance will keep him alive for the moment. Prophet trying to push forward. XL able to walk away wounded.
The biggest thing is that Prophet did not have his Mega Knight available, so the follow-up was not there from the side of Rogue. Inspired gets a clutch ultimate once again, but this time XL is immediately can turn and execute him before the rest of Rogue can try and turn that one around. Akali did not have enough damage this time around to be able to execute the full health XL lineup, so they walk away with the kill. It will alleviate some of the pressure, but Rogue demonstrating that they're willing to fight, willing to challenge this XL squad that is so far ahead.
It'd be very easy just to sit back and try and defend your inhibitor towers, but Rogue unwilling to do that. Did burn the teleport on Larson, burn the flash on Woolite as well, so in the next fight, XL can work around those tools. They still have triple teleport on their side. They can put Expect down towards the bottom side and then try and pull Rogue up towards this Baron, which has now spawned.
I think doing a Baron this early would be very, very dangerous, but they can definitely set up, threaten towards it.
XL laugh in the face of danger.
I mean, they keep laughing, but Rogue is like, well, all right, you laugh, I'm going to smash you in the face. And they've been able to do it once so far. That second fight did not quite go the way that they wanted, but now we're in for quite a close game. Because XL, even though they had all the momentum in their favor, they were controlling the map well, they were finding other game plays, the arrow misses, and they're not able to find the pick. Prophet does have the TP. I'm looking for a ward that he could potentially flank to. We can see Silas walking over one now, but that will be cleared out. So flanks, no longer an option for Rogue. XL have full control over the Baron area, and this is a great opportunity for them to look for those picks that we talk so much about. While Jeskler does not have the arrow, the threat of that Baron is very real. And this is how you force your opponents into making a mistake.
Prophet has had the time to clear out that bottom wave, push it in towards the tower, and then come up and join his team. Means that if the fight did begin, he wouldn't have to use the TP. He'd be there before Expect, who's now down towards the bottom lane. And you can see XL say, okay, we'll respect the fact that you have a man advantage. We'll back away. We'll give you a little bit of time to clear out some of the vision we've secured around the Nasher. But in a couple of minutes, we will expect XL to go back towards that and get some vision of their own. And although it has been such a tough season for XL, we consistently see these signs of hope from them. We see these strong early games, and you know, you hear the saying, every journey has to start with a single step. Maybe this is the step for XL. Maybe 9-9 is the dream for this team from the UK. It'll be a very long road for them to get there, but you never know. We've seen stranger things happen on Summoner's Rift.
I'm just very happy that they punished what was effectively two losing lanes from the side of Rogue. The Prophet matchup in the top lane, Expect played that very well, and in the bot lane, the 2 versus 2, they really tried hard to shut down that Sona Taric, and they didn't just sit there and let it scale. So I love that we saw that from XL. They clearly had a game plan, they executed upon it well, and then we just see that one mistake in the mid lane, and like they are being forced back, but they're still getting towers. Like we need to reinforce. XL still in the driver's seat, 6,000 gold ahead. They've still had a great game overall, and this game is still theirs to lose. It's just that the longer the game goes on, the harder it potentially gets because the Sona is starting to scale up. She's getting levels under her belt. You can see that the Sheen is now done along with a fully stacked Seraph's Embrace. The Akali is also only going to get stronger, and once she gets the Zhonya's, it's even easier for her to just stick into the middle of fights, be more obnoxious and harder to kill. And so that's why XL, I'm kind of like saying that the pressure's a little bit on as Inspired goes in.
And Mystics goes out with the flash, has the unsealed spellbook, so can switch that across to a different summoner, but not having the flash on the Tahm Kench can be very detrimental for a team. Larson's going to face check straight up towards Expect here, who does just back away, gives a little bit of respect to the Akali, who can jump the wall and escape. But now XL will use this opportunity to get themselves that vision control around the Baron.
So notice how there was an option here to go for the Drake. I wondered if the Corki would look to solo it, but instead XL chose to prioritize control around the Baron. This could have been their 3rd Ocean Drake, and 3 of any Drake is always going to be useful. You can see the pings coming down now, and they've set up a really good push bot, but now that's starting to slowly push back. I still think it is another option for them, because mid is cleared out and Expect has prio top. But I was surprised that they decided to put so much emphasis on making sure they had the Baron vision first, and now they're coming into this. While it is effectively in darkness, they've got the wave set up nicely. The risk of this being answered by Rogue is very small.
It'd be very difficult for Rogue to do anything about this. That's 12% of your missing mana and HP every 5 seconds for XL now. Of course, that still works while you do something like the Baron, so you can start it up pretty easily and know that you'll be regenerating through it, and Rogue will have to try and take the fight around that objective. Rogue happy just to wait this one out. Let's have a look at where they are in terms of items. Woolite's building up towards his Lich Bane. You've got a Black Cleaver.
Nomicon on Kadril. I wonder if that's for the Grievous Wounds application.
Yeah.
Because obviously the Sona's going to be really obnoxious.
And the Taric. Yeah,
the Taric as well. So I think that's why he's decided to go for it. Because typically we see things like the Proto Belt to get the early cooldown reduction. So a bit of a pivot there from him. And I think he's actually the only Grievous Wounds that we have.
I mean, Mystiques could always grab an Ignite for himself with the Unsealed Spellbook if he wanted.
Potentially, yeah. But I think that was smart pickup, you know? Like, you know there's going to be a lot of healing. Make sure you have that application in the fights.
I do want to bring attention to the fact that Larsen's going towards his own Morellos instead of the Zhonya's next. So
well, often you also see like an early Oblivion Orb. Well, I say early, like it's his third item, right? But just sitting on an Oblivion Orb is also just really powerful, really potent. The extra flat Magic Pen is really good. Right, Exile now starting off the Baron. The Rogue have no vision on this, so they're going to be forced to face check. They do have Sona Taric. Let's see how they pull it off.
Here we go. Rogue, last time they took a 5v5, they won the fight. Exile back away. Catapulton comes into Mystiques. They know he doesn't have the flash, but he's still got the thick skin. And Rogue looking to push forward. Larsen jumps in. Mystiques taking the Baron. Damage is going to fall to the Baron, and Larsen takes the kill. Crescendo coming out with the Cosmic Radiance as well as expect. Jumps onto the backline. He goes golden. Stops time for a second as Prophet's jumping forward. And now the top laners have to retreat back. GA propped on expect. The Gnar into the wall from Cadril, stolen away. And Prophet's gone to his demise. Now Rogue fighting in a 4v4 as Inspired tries to jump on the backline, but Warlight's still there. Jessica takes down Inspired. And Excel continue to set forward. They take the fight, they take the kills, and they will turn back and take the Baron.
And in the extended fight, XL do come out on top. Another beautiful steal coming out from Cadril to turn that fight so heavily in the favor of XL. The TP is going to come through from the side of Mickey, and they're going to be able to secure this Baron. Excellently played by XL. That team fight could have gone so wrong. And when we jump into the replay, I want to keep an eye on what Prophet is up to.
It was so close. Larsen's going to try and do what he can here to stop XL from taking the Baron, but I don't think he's going to be able to do too much versus 4 members of XL. The Abyssal Voyage actually coming in here from Mystiques. Looking for the Tongue Lash. Arrow won't connect onto Larsen, who's able to dodge away, and 27 minutes in the game, 10,000 gold lead now for XL. It's gone a little bit slower than they would have wanted it, but now you have to feel they'll be able to close out with this buff.
So, as we jump into the replay, notice how Prophet is going to try and come in from the flank to threaten the backline. But what's going to end up happening is this trio is going to completely avoid him, and that crowd control is going to disappear. So as we start the play, keep an eye on what Prophet is trying to do. His rage bar is pretty healthy. He's looking to set things up. Inspired goes onto the front line, but that initial crowd control is now wasted on the support. So while initially it starts in the 4 versus 5, Prophet then dives onto the backline, and he's not able to land it onto anyone. So he then doesn't have that crowd control available. XL can look for the re-engage while the GA is just buying time. The steal comes in from Cadril. He lands a big ultimate onto 3, and then XL are able to walk away with the fight. And because those big crowd controls didn't land onto crucial targets, that is why XL were able to turn this fight in their favor.
And once again, it's Cadril who's stepping up for his team, landing another Gnar ultimate into the wall that just turned that fight entirely in XL's favor. We saw him do it at the Ocean Dragon earlier on. Now he's done it the Infernal, sorry. Now he's done it at the Baron, and XL can split the lanes up. Expect down towards bottom side. Mid lane inhibitor tower down to about a 3rd HP. The clock is ticking here for Rogue, and with 2 minutes left on the Baron, XL will feel in a very good spot. Look at the damage onto Warlight as well. Not too much you can do about that for the moment. XL will get their next wave and then pull it in. And while they do that, you'll see Expect down towards the bottom side, trying to do what he can, but when the rest of your team isn't pushing, it's quite hard to push by yourself down towards that bottom lane.
I would quite like to see Mickey actually go towards top, but I suppose given that he doesn't have TP, he doesn't want to run the risk. But it's just allowing Rogue to just group up as 5 right now, and Prophet is just kind of moving between the 2 lanes. XL need to split Rogue up just a little bit more, but in any case, at this point, I feel like XL shouldn't be too afraid going for a fight. 10k gold, 11k gold lead is it's kind of enough to kind of compensate for the difference. Even though one comp should be stronger in a 5v5, you know, gold can obviously rectify that. So there's the first inhibitor. They will secure that. Still a minute left on the Baron. They should look to rotate bot because they don't have the wave set up on top. And Cadril is just going to keep this wave pushed in mid to keep a Rogue as split as much as possible.
Yeah, Larsen trying to deal with the wave, but can't clear it out too effectively. There's not a huge amount of wave clear on the side of Rogue at all. Mystiques here from the side. The arrow lands. Only onto Vander, but Cadril jumps at the back line with the Crescendo. He's going to take out one, and now Inspired, who went into the back of XL, is just going to get shut down. Larsen doing quite a lot of work as Inspired actually survives. It was Jeskla who fell. Mickey on the chase will get the double kill, and now Vander's chased up towards the top side of it. Prophet trying to do what he can against Expect, but he's just going to go down in the end. There's not really too much Rogue can do here. XL come up trumps in the fight. 16 kills to 7. They are now knocking on the door of the Nexus, and Rogue cannot answer at all. They had a couple of slips along the way, but XL show they are still alive in the LEC.
It's going to be a difficult battle to try and secure a spot in playoffs, but we have seen miracles here in Europe before. And if XL can continue to play like that, then they stand a good chance of making that miracle run. Beautiful stuff from XL. They make it happen. They punish both the top lane and the bot lane extremely effectively. And Cadril in these team fights was fantastic. His use of the Gnar ultimates, the stealing of the Sona ultimates, he demonstrated the power of Sylas in these team fights. And even after the nerfs, clearly showing that this champion does have value, can have impact.
Yeah, he did an incredibly good job for XL. Rogue, on the other hand, will be pretty dismayed with how the second half of the split has gone for them so far. Last week, they lost against the new Misfits lineup. Today, they lost against XL. Is this the start of their ball rolling away, rolling down the hill, and collapsing in the second half of the split? Because a lot of people were talking about them as a playoff hopeful. Today did not look like that.
Yeah, and we also saw once again that when Inspired doesn't have his Olaf, the impact in the early game that he has just isn't felt. We did see him set up one very early play onto mid lane, but outside of that, he wasn't able to do a lot really.
No.
And like a part of it was down to the draft. I think going for a very early Sona Taric gave XL a lot of options. They couldn't guarantee two strong solo laners, and Rogue were effectively punished. Expect had a fantastic laning phase. I think he played incredibly well, even though Mickey was put out at a deficit. We got to saw some great, I feel like XL overall played extremely well.
They definitely did. We're going to have another look at some of those ultimates from Cadril in the game because they were the deciding moments for XL. This was the first one. Prophet tried to jump in, but XL, like, it's just sublime to watch. It's like a symphony on Summoner's Rift.
I just love the patience that we saw from XL in so many of these fights. And while they definitely did make that mistake in the mid lane, when they were playing around these big objectives, they took their time. They were very slow, and I just love this response from the team. Not only to they saw it coming. Every single player saw it coming, and they were all able to avoid it. And mitigating that big crowd control bought them a lot of time to then regroup. And this is where we get to see, you see the steal. There's little that the opposition can do to answer, and Rogue end up faltering.
Expect being so far ahead that he already had a GA as well, meaning that even if he dived into the backline and distracted Rogue, he was able to come back and fight through the rest of that fight. Mate, it a great game for XL, ended with a 14,000 gold lead. Looked like it could have ended a lot sooner as well. Needs to clean up a few of those mistakes, but if they continue on this form, they will be eyeing that 6th place pretty hungrily, I think.
Well, we'll see if XL can do it. As we said, there is a long road ahead of them. This will be no easy task, but if we saw H2K, who were, 1-8 last year, make that miracle run all the way into playoffs, it can be done.
It definitely can. I think this would be the miracle list of miracle runs. From 1-9 to 9-9 is probably where they're looking.
We've had some pretty amazing stories here in Europe, though, like the Rogue run that they made a couple years ago, I think back in 2016, where if they'd won one if they'd won one more game, they would have qualified for playoffs.
Yeah. But they didn't.
They did not. They did not. But it was very, very close.
We've seen some great runs. We saw Unicorns of Love have a great run last year as well. I think it was in spring where they almost made it, but we don't tend to see them making it. You hear every story is they almost made it.
Only last split, like think of the position that they were in, and then they had that beautiful second half of the split where they completely turned it around, and then they were even able to get a 3rd place spot. But even then, at the end of the split, one bad game could have cost them so much. So
that's all it takes. With playoffs on the horizon, we want to know who your key player of that game was. You can go on over to @LOLesports on Twitter with Expect Cadril and Mickey your options. If you don't give it to Cadril, you are trolling as much as Excoundrel was when he said he likes my fashion sense the most. We'll soon hear from Mystiques before Fnatic go up against the new Misfits gaming lineup. We'll see you guys after the break. Bandu and Warlock underneath the tower trying to survive.